Hey everybody, Bob Chick back with David Bay. We are back for another installment of TLR. Lots to talk about, David, this week. We'll get right to it. Two major shows going on over the weekend. Toronto, of course, where I was calling the shots. Ron Hachey doing a great job up there. Bigger, better than ever, more vendors, more people, and 150 plus pros on hand in Toronto. All the divisions covered. And Cali, our good friend John Lindsay putting that one on, of course, with Tamer El Gindi and the crew in California. Let's start with that one, David. You've got some information on Cali.
I am the man for information. I don't want to say a dark horse one, but I certainly don't think a lot of people had Gerald Williams winning. So Gerald got his pro card. I don't believe it was last year's North Americans. I think it was the 2015 rather North Americans. We saw him do well at the collegiate level, then we saw him come out at the USA's and do pretty well. It was his pro debut, and I got to tell you, he looked really good. He brought really good conditioning, not as massive as some of the other guys he beat. So it was good to see conditioning rewarded. His conditioning out of the top group looked to be the best. It was close between him and Sasan Harati. Sasan obviously got sixth place in New York. A lot of people felt he should have been a little bit higher. He moved up to second place. The way they did the call-outs, they had their first group of guys, and then they brought Sasan and Gerald back out as the final call-out. So you knew it was between those guys for top two, and it was close. Gerald's lines were a little bit better. Sasan was certainly in great condition, more muscle than Gerald. So I think you could have probably flipped a coin between first and second place, and nobody would have been too upset. But a really good win for Gerald, and it was nice to see conditioning rewarded with a win. And I mean, he's a young guy. I want to say he's only in his mid-20s, and he's qualified for the Olympia now. Now, is he going to go to the Olympia and be a top 10 guy? Probably not, but he's going to the Olympia, which is pretty badass.
Well,
so.
your pre-contest pick, Charles Griffin, ended up in a third-place spot, which I thought was very good.
For a good lineup. He looked a little bit good. He probably could have been a little bit leaner from the pictures that I saw, and had he been as sharp as Sasan or Gerald, I think he could have pushed for that top spot. He's got a really good frontal bicep. His most muscular is crazy. His legs were his weak spot. Those seem to be coming up. So Charles has got to tighten up his conditioning a little bit, and I think he can win shows too. That being said, if we're talking about who needs to tighten up their conditioning to win shows, Akim Williams in the lineup again. You know, we had discussed as to whether he was going to be able to improve his conditioning enough from New York to California to make a significant difference in placings, and he placed the exact same in a little bit of a weaker lineup in California, although I shouldn't say much weaker. The California lineup was pretty good. He really didn't look any sharper to me. He's so massive. I mean, if you look at his pictures of his front double bicep especially, it is one of the most cartoony front double biceps you've ever seen, up there with Rulli and Ronnie Coleman. But he's just got to be sharper, and he's not that bad from the front or the side, but he turns around, and especially his upper back is just smooth, and he made some social media posts. You could tell he was disappointed. And yeah, of course, he went to Tampa last year. He got second in Baltimore to Victor Martinez, went to Tampa a couple weeks later, won his first pro show, was out at Oxygen Gym in Kuwait training, putting on more size to his already massive frame, and he gets two fifth place finishes and loses behind four guys at each show that he could have potentially beat had he been in top condition.
Well, let me ask you this. When you say he was disappointed, was he disappointed in his showing or in the results?
I think he was more disappointed just overall with his showing. Akim is, he's a hardworking guy.
Right.
I've never seen him, go on a rant about the placings or whatever. I think, there's so many bodybuilders, they can work really hard, and hard work getting ready for a show and just that next level of suffering are two different things. And I'm not saying Akim didn't go there, but even to get in his shape is really hard work, So if you diet 16 or 20 weeks and you get close, you've still worked your ass off to get into that kind of conditioning. So to not place how you want, it can be really disappointing. And he seemed a little disappointed with his finish. Again, he didn't go offable placings or anything, which somebody did this weekend, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But no, he just seemed disappointed, and instead of, you can kind of always tell how guys respond after shows, because some guys, when they don't place as well as they want, it lights a fire under their ass, and they're like, sure, I'm going to get after it. I got this show coming up, and obviously there's a bunch of shows coming up on the calendar. And Akim just kind of said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I've got to kind of go back to the drawing board. So, he definitely seemed like the show took some air out of him. Again, he's a phenomenal bodybuilder, and he's got all the mass to be winning all these shows. Probably could get in the top 10 at the Olympia, and who knows? He's just got to bring in that conditioning, and I think he can do it. We saw it in Tampa. We saw him at a pretty good level of conditioning. He needs to repeat that, and if he can repeat that and even a little bit better, he's winning all these shows.
Well, the increased size actually in this case seems to have hurt him a little bit, and actually being able to get down enough to get in that conditioning. These are, quite frankly, David, 2 shows that he should have won. But he finds himself in the 5th spot. Eddie Bracamantes, I really like this kid a lot. He ends up in 4th place. I've liked his physique. It took him a few shots to get pro, but hey, there's no shame in that, my friend, as we all know. So it took him considerably less time than it took somebody like myself. But he's got a great physique. He's very well put together. He's very well balanced. I predict that he'll win a show this year if he competes more. I would not surprise me to see him in a winner's circle somewhere this year.
He's one of these guys that continues to make progress too. So a lot of times what we've seen, and we've seen this a lot over the years, somebody goes to the national level shows a handful of times, takes them a few shots to earn their pro card, and they hit their peak earning their pro card. Now, earning your pro card, obviously a very difficult task. So that's where some guys peak, and that's fantastic. It's a great accomplishment. And then we see some guys that really don't get better at the pro level. Eddie's one of these guys who he's making slow progress. He's not one of these guys who all of a sudden he turned pro and just blew up, but he's been making steady progress and a top 5 finish at this show with a good lineup. And he looked really good. His conditioning was good. Yeah. He's got good structure, and he's one of these guys where if he can continue to make even just a little bit of progress from year to year, I agree with you. Eddie's definitely a guy that can be winning shows.
Well, on a final note on the Cali this year, I had mentioned my dark horse pick on the win on our last show, David. Unfortunately, he continues to be the dark horse in 8th place at this show. I did see a couple of picks. It's the same old for On. He has got to find a formula that works, or he's got to work with somebody that has a different approach. Whatever he's doing has not been working. But once again, I see the picks. I see the potential. He's got all the tools that this kid could easily be in the top 3 of any show he enters. If he can get his conditioning down point, he needs to make a change.
Yeah, there was on a couple of different social media platforms from a couple of different people, there were rumblings this weekend, again, of bodybuilding dying and bodybuilding going the way of the dinosaur. Look, there are a lot of really good bodybuilders out there. There are. And so for these people who are all whole hum about the current state of bodybuilding, I understand. They just want to see very competitive shows. They want to see guys show up in shape. The potential to have really crazy shows. I mean, if you look at this California Pro, okay, let's say you take Gerald, who was in top shape, Sasan, who's in top shape, Charles could have been a little bit tighter. Eddie was really good. Akim Williams could have been a little bit tighter. I mean, you got guys even like Jeff Long, who didn't place that well. Jeff in really good condition is a great bodybuilder. Alan Cool, Thomas Casper. I mean, these lineups are full of guys. Older guy Josh Wade. I mean, these lineups, and Josh was actually in great condition. A little bit older guy. But Josh got 6th place. And with this kind of lineup, that was a really good showing for Josh. He worked with John Meadows, got in really shredded condition. So not the biggest guy or the prettiest aesthetics, but it just was a testament to his hard work. But I guess my point is that a lot of these shows have the potential to be really, really good. So I get where guys are coming from when they're talking about, bodybuilding being this and bodybuilding being that. But if you look at some of these lineups and the physiques that were on stage, there's still a ton of potential for these to just be incredible shows. The bodybuilders just got to really start bringing it. They got to stop worrying about how big they are. They got to stop worrying about what the scale says. And they got to stop surrounding themselves with yes people, which we'll also get to later. And they got to show up in good shape. And these shows can be excellent. The IFBB is loaded with tons of good bodybuilders. They just got to start bringing it.
Well, we're going to wrap it up on the Cali. Once again, congratulations to the captain, John Lindsay, and, of course, my main man, Tamer El Gindi, doing a great job out there in SoCal, putting on these shows, continuing to bring the excellence to all the muscle contest shows. Completely on the other side of the earth, and literally, and up a little bit, was Toronto.
It's not that. It's still in North America,
bro.
It's not on the other side of the earth.
Right. Listen, it might as come on. You're not getting much. You can't get a lot further than California to Toronto. Okay,
you could be in Europe. You could be in China.
Well, I'm talking about reasonably within the continental U.S. Now,
You could be in the new continent of New Zealand.
Listen, I'm not taking any geographical advices from you, my friend. At least we get into that continent above and underwater gig again. I referenced 3 shows back for those who want to Google it. Anyway, Toronto. We had 2 guys that were coming in. The most heralded, of course, was Johnny Jackson and John Delarosa. They did not disappoint. They ended up going 1-2. Johnny getting the nod in this one. I can tell you, as somebody who was closer to the athletes and the judges themselves, these 2 guys were in great condition. And, I mean, literally, you could have flipped a coin in the morning. I think Johnny ended up edging out Delarosa just a little bit at night, and it was enough. You could see the disappointment on Delarosa's face as he takes his second runner-up finish. But I got to be honest, it was a well-earned win by Johnny Jackson and an emotional one because this is one he really wanted. He's competed many times in Toronto, has never been able to win it. Finally did it here in his last year.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have a whole lot of people put up much of an argument that if John Delarosa is at 100% razor sharp and Johnny's at 100%, that John Delarosa doesn't win this show.
Right.
And you and I have talked on multiple shows, leading into the Arnold South Africa, the wrap-ups, all these shows. We talked about Johnny Jackson in the sense that he has to nail it to win shows. Look, from the front, Johnny's quads are down, and everybody's talking about it. From the back, he's fine, obviously. From the side, he's all right. From the front, his quads are down. So Johnny needed this year to be 100%, and he needed also being 100%. He needed some other guys to slip a little bit,
sure.
And that's exactly what happened. And Johnny, I give all the props to Johnny because we've seen him off a little bit, last year. And he came in this year knowing he was going to retire, knowing he wanted to get back to the Olympia and said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go out with a bang. He's come in very close to 100% at his last 2 shows and won. Again, John Delarosa is one of my favorite people in the whole industry. He genuinely is. And I try to be, pretty analytical, and I'm trying to get overly, have favoritism, but I definitely have favoritism for John because I think he's a great guy, and I would like to see him get a win. He's just got to be just a little bit sharper. I think he could have won in New York. He could have beat, he definitely could have beat Sergio had he been 100%. And I don't know that had John been in California this weekend instead of Toronto, that he wouldn't have beat those guys because I think he was a little bit more complete than some of the guys there. So John's just got to tighten it up a little bit. I don't know if that means getting a different coach or just bringing a different approach to his shows. But in the big picture of things, it's still a top 2 finish in an IFBB show, and not just any IFBB show. And I know you can tell John's one of these guys where he puts a lot of pressure on himself to be great. And I know after he took second to Compton in Orlando in 2014, Peter and I were interviewing him, and he was kind of head hung a little low, and we're like, dude, you just got second place to a phenomenal
right.
Dustin Compton. You're at an IFBB Pro show, an Orlando Europa, and you got second place. And we're all competitors, so we want to win. And at the time, nobody wants to hear, nice job on your silver medal. The most disappointed people in the Olympics are the people who get silver medals. The gold medal people are the winner. The bronze people, hey, I got a medal. Silver, it's the old. Seinfeld did this clip. Yep. I don't want people to think I'm stealing his comedy, but it was like, if you win, everybody's like, great. If you get third, everybody's like, hey, you got a medal. If you get second, everybody says, well, what happened?
You lost. Right.
But in the big picture of things, once again, John was second place at the New York Pro, which is a phenomenal show. Second place at the Toronto show, which right behind, the Olympia and the Arnolds and the New York. Toronto is one of the biggest shows there is each year. All lineups are represented. There's always a lot of competitors. So still a really good showing for John Delarosa. But as I said with the California show, you get some of these guys showing up at 100%, especially John, and you're going to have some competitive shows.
Absolutely. Well, those 2 went 1 and 2. Johnny Jackson pretty much nailed it once again. His conditioning was probably the best I've seen. Probably equal conditioning to the Arnold that he won. He's on a roll, and he's beside himself. That this is just a great way to go out. He's under no delusion, David. I've had that conversation with him that he's like, a lot of people at this point would think, maybe I'll just, hang out for another year or 2. Or he's like, nah, listen, I'm going to go out. I'm going to try to win as many as I can. He is slated for one more show. That's the Kansas City that Chad Nichols is putting on.
Okay, the Muscle Mayhem coming up next weekend.
Next weekend, Muscle Mayhem coming up. He is signed up for that. He says he's going to fulfill his obligation. he says, hey, I'm going to ride it, and then after that, I'm going to shut it down and get ready for the Olympia. But good for him, man. I mean, what a great way to go out. What a great way to make your last year count. And obviously, his goal to get on an Olympia stage, he's going to realize. My man, Jeff Beckham, third place. I tell you, this kid continues to impress, David. He's picking the right shows, and I actually complimented him on that. I actually told him on our show that we've been talking about his choices and the business of bodybuilding. Another third place finish, a couple more points. He does want to win a show, but the improvements he's made have been dramatic.
Yeah, and Jeff is he's one of these guys who has a gigantic frame, and it's taken. I remember seeing him in Chicago a few years ago, huge frame. It was really lacking the muscle mass he needed to be competitive. And then next year he's a little better, and next year's a little better. And now here we are at 2017, and he's showing up at these shows with a pretty fair amount of muscle. His conditioning can still be a little bit better. He's got a little bit of ways to go, but he's been getting better and better and better. And he's got a big enough frame where once that's completely filled out and he shows up really shredded, it's just another guy. It's just back to my other point, just another guy that's a really good bodybuilder that can be really competitive if he just really nails it. And for him to get third place here, that was a good finish for Jeff. I don't know. I think that might be the highest that he's placed at a pro show.
I think so. Yeah. He looked good. He's a big boy, like you said, big tall kid, wide shoulders. He's got to fill out in the upper body to match the legs. But I'll tell you what, he wasn't off by much, and he worked his way up. Paulo Almeida, we have seen a few times over the past year. He didn't do quite as well. This is probably his best showing. He's a big boy. He's a little blocky when it comes to the symmetry, proportion, ideals that we look for. But he brings a lot of muscle, and that was enough to get him into that top 5 positioning. He was battling the new guy, Oli, as he likes to be called, from Poland, because it's almost impossible to pronounce his name. So,
Marek Oljanacek.
Yes, close enough. If you say it quickly, it sounds really good. But he goes by Oli, and tell you what, a lot of muscle. Best way I can describe Oli is he's got a lot of good parts, but they don't all mix in quite.
It doesn't flow quite as well.
Machinery. Yeah.
I actually had texted you pictures when you had gotten into Toronto. Right. Hey, this Polish guy looks really good. And, obviously as soon as you put him in a lineup, that's where weaknesses are exposed. But he definitely did look good. And going over Paulo, broken record time here. Another guy, you're right, he doesn't quite flow as well, but he's got huge arms. He's got big legs. His back is coming up. He's another one of these guys where he's getting a little bit better every show. He's working on his conditioning. And if Paulo ever shows up like really, really shredded, that's going to be interesting because he needs to get there. And his conditioning has been getting better show after show. So he's making steady improvements and don't want to take anything away from him. He does need to be a little bit tighter. I don't know at his age that he's all of a sudden going to make some major change as far as aesthetics and be, unblocky or whatever.
No.
But he's got freaky muscle, especially freaky arms. The fans love it. And he's one of these, just another one of these guys. I watched the shows this weekend. And it wasn't one of these weekends. I absolutely 100% didn't have any ho-hum bodybuilding's dying. I was looking at these shows, looking at the pictures, looking at the lineup, saying, this is great. Like, there's some really good bodybuilders. Yeah, you guys got to get your shit together. But there's just a ton of potential in the IFBB right now for there to be just really kick-ass shows. And I think if these guys start showing up shredded, it could really re-energize the sport, re-energize the fans, and get people really excited about these shows.
And yet another TLR exclusive right here on this episode, the word unblocky, coming from David Bay.
Did I say unblocky?
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep that in, too. We're not taking that out.
That's a word. Unblocky is a word. If you look it up.
It is now.
In the dictionary right now, it's going to be... unblocky, non-blocky, less blocky. I'm allowed to make up words.
Sure, absolutely.
Strategery, stick-to-itiveness.
Stick-to-itiveness, always a good one. Well, listen, bottom line is JOJ in the winner's circle. And for 10 points and control of the board, David, in the name JOJ, Johnny O. Jackson. What does the O stand for? Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Orenthal?
Close. Otis, my man.
Oh, I was going to give him the OJ name, Orenthal. Did you catch that, OJ? Orenthal? Yeah. All right.
Otis,
my man. I know that, but now I do. Otis.
Yes. All right, on to the 212s. My man Ronnie Rocco, how about that? Back in the winner's circle once again. No surprise here. Again, the highest ranked athlete going in. He did not disappoint. Looked like Ronnie Rockl of old. However, he was pushed all the way, and you could have made a case, actually from where I was standing, Nam-un Chol from Korea. Nam-un Chol.
Crazy legs on that guy. A little bit shallow in some of his back shots.
A little bit.
Really aesthetic from the front, small waist, good front poses. Again, crazy quads. He's one of these guys where he can do really well on the 212. Conditioning was pretty solid. Could have been maybe a hair sharper from the pictures I saw. But, yeah, a good win for Ronnie. And Ronnie's one of these guys where I think a lot of people kind of had written him off. So it's cool to see him come back. And you're right. He's arguably at his all-time best.
Yeah.
And looking like the Ronnie Rockl of old. I don't know what he was weighing when he was, doing well in the open, but I can't imagine it was much more than he's at right now. I mean, you rewind, 7, 8, 9 years, a lot of the guys that were doing well in the open, your Hiddy Tada, your Ronnie Rockl, your Darrem Charles, a lot of these guys were, they were doing the Sean Ray thing. They were weighing 212, 215, 218 and doing well in the open. So for Ronnie to be as old as he is or in as around as long as he has, to really come back and nail it. I don't know how long he's going to compete for. I don't know if he's planning on hanging it up. But, it was really good to see him back at the top of his game and be a competitive 212 guy, because really I didn't see him being a really competitive 212 guy. And it's good sometimes to be proven wrong.
That's because I prove you wrong every week, bro. I mean, come on. With the Bob Stradamus soup bowl that I look into and see the future, my friend, you'd see that once again, I know my stuff, but Nam-un Chol is very impressive. Like I said, needs a little bit of work from the back, but impressive nonetheless. Legs are outstanding. This kid goes on another show. Look for him to be in the winner's circle. And Vortek Korentensky, there's a name for you, rounds out the...
I talked about him a little bit before the show about how he would be a contender. Good physique. He's not, one of these crazy 212 guys, but he's put together really well. And he's got a good amount of muscle and comes in great condition. And he's gonna place well on consistency alone, and he's been able to do that. So
absolutely. All right, into classic. Now where the fun starts. Okay, so classic physique, great lineup here in Toronto. Great lineup. All the lineups have been pretty damn good, I got to say so far. That class has really risen over the last year.
It has
tenfold, and we'll get into that in just a second. Your boy Chris Bumstead wins this one again. Now there was zero question when they walked out that this kid was walking away with this. He has all the tools. He will be a legitimate contender. As far as I'm looking, he may be the guy to beat. And I'm talking even with all due respect to the incumbent champ, Danny Hester. This guy's got all the tools, man. Good-looking kid, tall, great physique, X-frame. He's got it all.
Yeah, quads that I would bet my house that measure bigger than his waist.
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh, yeah. But... so that wasn't really in question. He came out, looked great, deserved the win. Kevin Ford came out. This is a name that you had mentioned actually previously to look out for. Didn't disappoint. Again, great physique, good posing, good presentation. Top two, no question about it. My man Sante Aragon came out now.
Third place for Sante.
I was really happy. I absolutely love this kid. This was a great move for him to go to bodybuilding, the classic. It's made for him. Now, here's a funny story from the show, right? So he's definitely in the top three in the mix in the prejudging. No question about it. Kid's very well put together. His posing is literally on top out of almost all those guys. Night show comes. Got the routines. Now, he comes out. Actually, I've seen this routine one other time. Absolutely phenomenal. It's the Queen. The show must go on. I think it's... Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, he does, bro. He kills this thing, right? I mean, every move is. You want to see posing at its finest? Check out the video of Sante from Toronto.
That is what I call posing.
That is what you call posing until the last 10 seconds of the song.
Oh no!
So I gotta bust his balls right after the fact, which and he took it. He took it in stride. I mean, he was laughing about it, but he kills this routine, David. I mean, it's dramatic, and he's got the facial expressions and the hands and all. And right at the end, the last move he does, he goes down to the ground, and then he does a move. Well, when he went down to the ground, he pitched forward. And for any of us that have ever done poses on the floor, it's very easy to do when you're on stage and you got different types of whatever.
Did he catch himself at least with his hands?
He catches himself, but it kind of messes up. It's literally the 99.9% of a great routine, and he blows like the last move. It wasn't a big move, and it wasn't a big deal, but it was just kind of funny to me. And he was kind of laughing about it in the back because he's like, "Man, you got to be kidding!" He's like, "Couldn't you like blow on me or something like that so I could go back, get in position?" But that's not. Listen, top three was top three. Again, to me, it was undisputable. It's when you get into fourth that it gets interesting. Okay, now Darrem Charles.
Here we go.
Perennial champ. We all know Darrem. Best poser in the biz. No question about it. Undisputed. However, we have seen some footage of him being not too pleased with his fourth place finish, to the point that he actually thought that he obviously should have either been in the top three, one. I don't know where he's going with this, but let's take a look at the clip, David, and then let's get your thoughts on the back end.
It's the day after the show. The show's over. Probably a lot of you probably already know I got fourth. My response to the whole results, one word: shocking. But everyone's going to see pictures for themselves, and people who were there will kind of be able to give their own analysis of it. But I was surprised. But the good news is, I looked the way that I wanted to look, and I'm much happier than last year, to be honest with you. I'm fuller, I'm rounder, I'm getting used to my physique. So on to the Olympia. We're all going to meet again in September in Vegas. So that's how it ended up, and nothing I can do about that. So just look forward to Olympia. All right?
All right, David. So you just watched what I just watched. Now, what do you take out of that?
He wasn't scathing with his remarks, so he didn't come out and necessarily bash the judges or go on a rant or anything. But in a nice manner, he's saying that he can't figure out the judging or why he placed fourth place or really what's going on, saying he was shocked. Look, we've talked about this before. When men's physique came out, it took a couple years for the division to develop to where it's at right now, and I think it's kind of the foundation is set. The same thing happened for Classic. And when Classic Physique came out, name Darrem Charles came up. He came out, won a lot of shows, did a lot of shows. But as with men's physique, as with bikini, as with figure, as with all these divisions, women's physique, anytime there's a new division, it takes some time to evolve. You get new people switching over the division, coming in better. Darrem is going to be a victim, if you can use the term victim, of a new generation, even though it's just only the second year, of a new generation of classic physique competitors. And the reality with Darrem's physique is, and I've talked with this about this with you and numerous other people, Darrem's physique was more classic as a bodybuilder because he had larger sweeps on his quads, and so there was more of a waist to quad taper. Look, if you've got 34-inch quads, huge, but you have a 40-inch waist, it's not classic. If you're a Chris Bumstead and has a 31-inch quads or whatever they are and a 29-inch waist, it's going to look more impressive on stage. And Darrem's legs are noticeably downsized. Now, granted, Darrem's got bigger arms than Chris. He's got bigger arms than Santi. He's got bigger arms than Kevin Ford. But he doesn't have the same flow he used to have. Right. And I don't know at this point if Darrem's goal is to continue to place high in the IFBB. I don't know that it wouldn't be a bad move for him to go back to bodybuilding. Now, I don't know at his age if he can put size back on his legs. We all know as you get older, unless your name is Dexter Jackson, usually legs are the first place where it goes. I don't know if that's even an option for Darrem, but he is facing a younger crowd of really good, top-notch classic physique competitors. And if we look forward to the Olympia, in the video he mentions, okay, well, we'll see you guys back on stage in Vegas. That's going to be a problem for you because in Vegas we have Danny Hester, we have Arash Rabar, you have Breon Ansley, you have Chris Bumstead, you have Terrence Ruffin, you have the tall guy, I'm 6'4", you have Timms, you have a bunch of guys, and we got a couple more months of classic physique shows before the Olympia even happens. So we got guys, we might see Santiago Aragon on the Olympia stage. You don't know. Darrem is going to slip. Darrem is not going to, and I'm not somebody who's just like, this is how it is. This is how it is. Darrem is not going to go on the Olympia stage in September and leapfrog all these guys. He's had a phenomenal career. He's won shows in open bodybuilding. He's won shows in classic physique. Darrem is a phenomenal athlete, so I don't want to take anything away from him in that standpoint. He is aging, and when he cut the weight to get to classic, he lost some of his classic lines, and that's that. There was not any of those three guys in the top three that placed ahead of Darrem that shouldn't been ahead of him, that didn't have more classic physique than Darrem.
Well, I go back many, many years with Darrem. I've always loved Darrem. Again, to me, probably the best poser of all time when it comes to energizing the crowd and entertainment from that standpoint. Here's the bottom line, David, is you're right. He is getting older. He's competing against guys that are literally half his age. And you can tell the difference now. And I don't say that disparagingly, but listen, just like you can tell the difference when we go into shows and we watch the Masters out there. And there's some damn good-looking Masters that you go, man, this guy's all right. But there's a distinct difference between a real good Masters competitor and a real good guy in the Open who's in his 20s or even early 30s. That's what Darrem's facing right now. Darrem looked good. He was in contention, but he absolutely does not beat those three guys ahead of him. I had him in fourth also.
It's not the thing. The thing we have to remember about Classic as well, just like we talked about the Polish guy in the Open. Classic is not a body parts competition.
No.
And does Darrem have better arms than the top three? Probably. Does Darrem have a better chest? Arguably. Does Darrem have a better back? Arguably. Does Darrem flow as well in the sense of a classical physique as any of those guys? No. So I get it. Look, if you take a tape and you put him to Bumstead's arm or Darrem Charles' arms, there's no question who's got bigger arms. That's not what classic physique is about. It's not even what bodybuilding is about. It's about presenting the best overall package. In that lineup, Darrem didn't have it.
Well, you summed it up right in the beginning. Part of the problem inherently is the name. It should be called classic bodybuilding. And Absolutely. I'm not so sure that's something we may not consider in the future. I just assume call it that from the start because I make that distinction there because there's a difference, okay? Classic bodybuilding, again, you can call it whatever you want, but we all know what it means, okay? It's bodybuilding from yesterday, okay? Sure. Which is smaller, a little more smaller in the middle. Obviously, again, those classic type physiques that come to mind, the Steve Reeves of the world and the Bob Parises and those type of guys, all right? Those are your ideals when I think of classic bodybuilding. So some of that can be found just in the very definition. But listen, as I've said 10,000 times, bodybuilders should have a moratorium on speaking 24 hours before or after a show.
24 hours and a cheeseburger.
And a cheeseburger. You get a cheeseburger in, believe me, you got a whole different look on the world.
24 hours and a cheeseburger.
Yeah. So, Darrem will bounce back. He will represent. I can't wait to see him back on the Olympia stage. I don't know how much longer he's going to want to do this, only in terms of he's been bodybuilding a long time, bro. Darrem, people would be shocked to see how long Darrem has been around. So, and now again, kind of in the second wind into classic. So I wouldn't take too much of what we just saw in that video. It's not sour grapes. I think it's just
no. He's not. He's not going off on some tangent or anything. No. And part of it might just be the age thing. Some guys look at the age thing as a bad thing. Like, oh, I should still be whooping up on these young guys. And it's like at some point. When you're in your late 20s or early 30s, you think that somebody who's 19 or 20 just absolutely shouldn't be able to beat you, And as you get older, there's this transitional period where all of a sudden the younger guys are going to be better than you, unless your name is Dexter Jackson.
Right.
And he's transitioning into that period. Look, he's had I don't want to seem like I'm being, scathing on Darrem. He's had an absolutely phenomenal career. And even as a classic physique competitor, I preferred him as a bodybuilder. He still looks great. He is just in a division where these genetic freaks with the tiny waist and the sweeping quads are starting to come out of the woodwork. And that division is only going to get more and more competitive. Look, I'm telling you, we have not even, I don't want to get overly dramatic, but we haven't seen the best of these classic physique competitors. There's guys that have been competing in men's physique. Oh, yeah. There's guys somewhere out there that were bodybuilders that were too small that might have thought, nah, I'm not going to do it. There's a lot of guys yet to come out of the woodwork that could do very well in classic physique. And we see that every year at the national level shows. And we're even seeing it at the pro shows, guys taking fourth or fifth, like Courage Opara. Who the hell is that? And, hey, man, he dials it in a little bit, and he's going to be something to watch out for. So,
I don't know who Courage is, but I know he ain't afraid of nobody. That's for sure. So,
but anyhow, I get Darrem's disappointment, but I think it was a little bit misguided. Again, phenomenal career, but look, man, changing of the guard.
well,
That's
two things to consider. One, Darrem is used to winning. Um, Listen, this guy's won a whole bunch of shows, man. He is
yes.
he's a very competitive pro. It's in his nature. God bless him for that. He absolutely should be. That's why he had the success that he did. Second point, 2 words: Mark Anthony. All right,
Men's physique champion.
Men's physique champ.
Came out, yeah.
Well, listen, and whatever happened to Mark? What happened to Mark? Geez, Mark's getting worse. Mark's not doing as well. No, listen, Mark did great. Obviously, he won the Olympia. He had to have done something, right? A couple
First
times.
Olympian champion,
However,
absolutely.
that class caught up over the course of 2 years, and all of a sudden he had a lot stiffer competition, and his placing started to suffer because of it. It's not like he got worse or he wasn't.
No,
bringing it.
Mark didn't get any
No,
worse.
The competition got better, and that's what's going on right now with Classic, and you're going to continue to see it. So, anyways, next week, or this week coming up, I should say, Tim Gardner putting on the Puerto Rico Pro, bro, and I will be front and center.
Puerto Rico Pro. It's going to be rough heading down to Puerto Rico, huh?
It usually is. Yeah, it's a tough one. But he's got the NPC, the Enchanted Isle Classic, and NPC has been coming up in Puerto Rico. Him and Bubby Lupo have been doing a great job of bringing bodybuilding up to speed in Puerto Rico. And now, of course, we've got the second year of the Pro Show there. So this should be a good one. So good luck to Tim and the crew. He's got one of the best crews of anybody that puts on shows.
I'd tell you what, when you've emceed a lot of shows, and I've emceed a lot of shows, and I'll tell you what, the crew that the Shredded Cheddar Productions, they went with a cheese theme in Wisconsin, Kevin, Stacy, Demetrius,
right.
They have a phenomenal expediting crew. And they pay their expediting crews more than anybody else pays their expediting crew, and it shows. And so when I MC these shows in Wisconsin, they run so smoothly, it makes my job so much easier. And I've said this to people before. Being an MC is like being a waiter. You could be the best waiter in the world, but if the kitchen is behind the scenes screwing stuff up, it's going to make you look bad. It's very similar with MCing a show. You could be the best MC. If the expediting and all that is a mess, you're not going to do a good job.
True.
And the Wisconsin crew is the best. When I went to Hawaii, a little bit nervous, MCing my first IFBB show, I'm not going to lie, I was nervous going there. I'm like, it's my first IFBB show. Tim's been great to me. I don't want to mess things up for him. His first year having a pro show in Hawaii, his expediting crew, it was like, it was phenomenal. They just ran stuff really smooth. And I'll tell you what, if you've ever seen the behind the scenes at a show, the expediting crew is what makes those night shows run the way they do. And Tim's got the best crew. I'm going to say the Wisconsin crew's pretty damn good, but Tim's got an awesome crew.
Yeah, he's been doing this for quite some time. Everybody loves Tim Gardner. I put Tim in that same category as John Delarosa. They don't have any natural enemies. These are just
Tim's a guy who just gets it. Treat people good, show them respect, put on a good show for the fans, and the people will come. It's not rocket science, and that's not taking anything away from Tim. But he's just a guy that gets it, and he treats people good, and that sure goes. That sure goes a long way. I will be traveling to Houston actually this weekend. There is the American Fitness Expo. Second year this expo has been going on. They had a big expo last year. My good friend Matt Daniels, manager Matt on Facebook and Instagram, he's working with the promoter at setting stuff up. They wanted somebody to do interviews, talk to their athletes, to promote the expo on their social media and their YouTube and stuff. So I'm headed down there for that. You're going to have Kai Green, Jay Cutler, Robin Daniel, and Bailey.
Oh, very good.
You have Flex Lewis, Guy Cisternino, Sean Roden, Cody Montgomery. It's going to be all the stars, and you got a couple of the other, the YouTube stars. We've got CT Fletcher, Simeon Panda, Michelle Lewin, Brian Shaw is going to be there. It's in Houston at the Energy Center. Guys, this is a huge, huge expo. I'm super excited. I get to be back where I feel most comfortable, which is a mic in my hand and a camera on my ugly mug. So we're going to get all those. We're going to get you guys links to all those interviews and stuff. I get to talk a little bit about the expo with all the athletes, but talk about what they got coming up and what they got going on. I got a couple of things I want to talk to Kai Green about. I'm excited about that. I haven't been able to talk to Kai for contractual stuff, and the couple of times we were able to interview him, you handled that, being a little bit better friends with Kai, but haven't been able to interview Flex Lewis before. So I'm pretty excited about heading down there, and it's going to be a really good weekend. in a really good expo.
Well, TLR is like Switzerland, bro. So we can interview anybody, anytime with
We're
with
the
no
Swiss.
recourse. Exactly right. So us and the Swiss, always keep that in mind. All right, David, that's going to wrap things up for another TLR. I'm off to Puerto Rico. You're off to Houston. We'll be back this way later in the week, actually. We're going to preview the shows, and we'll be coming back with a new format. We're going to get out here a little bit more often. The fans have spoken, David. They want to hear more of what comes out of our mouths, which is always interesting. And our brand new website going up this week. So, guys, check that out. For David Bay, I'm Bob Chick. We're out.